The forest of Zaira was unlike anything a human had ever seen. The trees grew taller than towers, their glowing vines dripping light like liquid stars.
Ow.
Strange creatures moved between the shadows, their eyes reflecting silver in the dark. For most travelers, this place was a nightmare. But for Daniel, a lone human explorer, it was just another part of his long journey across alien worlds. He walked carefully, every step slow and steady, his hand always close to the weapon on his belt. His senses were sharp. He had survived enough battles to know when he was not alone. And tonight, he was not alone. Daniel felt at first like a whisper on the back of his neck, the weight of a gaze. Someone was watching him. He stopped, looking over his shoulder. Only silence answered him. The glowing trees swayed gently in the wind and nothing moved. But he knew. He could feel it. "Come out," he said softly, his voice steady. "I can see you." But there was no answer. High above, crouched on a thick branch, an alien girl froze. Her name was Liara. Her people were born with the gift of invisibility. Not true invisibility, but a bending of light around their bodies that made them vanish to most eyes. For years, she had been untouchable, unseen, untouchable like the wind. No one had ever spotted her before, till now. Her heart raced. She pressed herself tighter against the bark. Certain the human must be bluffing. How could he see her? No creature ever had. Not even her own kind could detect her when she willed herself hidden. She narrowed her bright violet eyes at the man below. He looked ordinary, tall, scarred, his clothes torn from travel. A death worlder, yes, but still only human. And yet he had turned his face directly to her hiding place. Daniel took another step forward, his boots crunching the strange silver grass beneath his feet. His eyes did not waver. "You can stop hiding. I told you, I see you." Lyra's stomach twisted. Couldn't be telling the truth. She tested him. Slowly, silently, she moved along the branch, changing her position. No sound escaped her, no rustle of leaves. She shifted like a shadow in water. Then she stilled again. Daniel's head followed her exactly, his gaze locked on her new spot. "Better," he said with a faint smirk. But still not good enough. Her breath caught. Fear prickled her skin. "How?" she whispered to herself, almost too quiet for even her own ears. "Impossible." Daniel heard it. His sharp ears picked up the faintest vibration. A smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Whoever this unseen stalker was, she wasn't perfect at hiding. He had fought predators that were far more dangerous than this. Still, his heart raced not with fear, but with curiosity. What kind of creature could vanish before the eyes and yet leave such a strange presence? Liara finally dropped from the tree, landing gracefully on the ground, still cloaked in her shimmering veil of invisibility. Only her faint outline wavered, like heat rising off stone. She circled him, her bare feet making no sound, her voice floating like mist. "You lie, human. You cannot see me." Daniel turned slowly, his eyes following her exactly. His hand remained on his belt, but he made no move to draw his weapon. "You think so? Then why are you circling to my left, 10 steps away?" She froze mid-step. His words were exact. He had described her movement perfectly. A sharp chill ran through her chest. No one should have been able to do that. Her people had used invisibility for centuries, to hunt, to fight, to rule from shadows. If this human could see through it, he was dangerous. It's too dangerous. She should flee. Yet, she didn't. Something about the way he stood, calm and certain, made her hesitate. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice sharper now. Daniel tilted his head. "The one who sees what others can't." His invisible lips parted in surprise. Was he mocking her? Or was he speaking truth? She wanted to believe it was a trick, but deep down, she felt exposed in a way she never had before. She snapped her fingers, summoning her veil tighter around her. Her form blurred completely, disappearing even to the faint shimmer. She became nothing but empty air. Then she darted forward, fast as a gust of wind, aiming to pass right behind him without a trace. Daniel didn't move until the exact moment she leaped. His hand shot out, and his fingers brushed the air closing around her wrist. Gasps tore from her throat as the world shattered around her. The light-bending veil flickered like broken glass, revealing her body for the first time. A slender girl, violet-skinned, with glowing hair like moonlight, stood frozen in his grip. Her wide eyes burned with both fury and disbelief. "You really can see me," she whispered. Daniel's expression stayed calm, though his eyes gleamed with something more curiosity, maybe even respect. "I told you, hiding doesn't work on me." For the first time in her life, Liara felt powerless. She pulled against his grip, but his strength was steady, unyielding. The human was no predator, yet he was far more terrifying. He had undone her greatest weapon with nothing but a glance. And yet, strangely, she did not feel hatred. What she felt was worse, something unfamiliar, something that made her heart beat faster. In the distance, a strange howl echoed through the forest. Predators of the night were waking. The glowing vines dimmed, shadows stretching longer. Daniel released her wrist and stepped back. "Stay hidden if you like, but those creatures out there won't care if you're invisible. They'll smell you out." Lyra's throat tightened. He was right. She knew the dangers of the forest better than anyone. But she could not understand this man. Why would he let her go after proving his power? As he walked ahead, never looking back, Liara stood frozen among the trees. For the first time in her life, she wondered if being unseen had really kept her, save for if it had only kept her from ever being truly known. And worse, she realized something she could not shake. This human had seen her, truly seen her, and that thought scared her more than anything else. Liara had never felt this way before. She was born into shadows, raised with the certainty that no one, not even her own kind, could see her when she did not wish to be seen. But now, after one brief encounter with a human, that certainty was broken. She followed Daniel from a distance, still cloaked, her steps silent among the glowing silver grass. Her heart was unsettled. Fear told her to leave him, to vanish back into the safety of her tribe, to pretend this never happened. Something else, something sharper, stranger kept her near. Curiosity. How could a human see through her gift? Daniel walked calmly, as though he knew she was still there. He didn't quicken his pace. He didn't draw his weapon. He simply moved through the alien forest as if he belonged there. The way he carried himself steady, unbothered. Her even more than his strange eyes. Finally, Liara broke the silence. "Shouldn't be able to see me," she hissed, her voice floating around him like mist. "Shouldn't know where I stand." Daniel didn't stop walking. "Yet I do," he replied. His tone was simple, matter of fact, like he was talking about the weather. Her invisible hands curled into fists. She tried again, moving quickly across his path, leaping into a tree, hanging upside down from a branch. Challenged, "Where am I now?" Without hesitation, he raised his hand and pointed directly at her upside-down form. His gaze didn't falter. "Hanging like a bat. Do you want me to say how ridiculous you look?" Her body stiffened. Rage and shock burned inside her. She dropped from the tree, landing lightly on the ground, still cloaked but unable to hide the trembling in her voice. "This is impossible. No human should see me. What are you?" Daniel finally stopped and turned to face her. His scarred face softened slightly as he tilted his head, studying the shimmer of her form. "Just a man," he said. "But a man who's fought things much worse than shadows." She hated how calm he sounded. Most creatures trembled before her veil, believing in ghosts and spirits when they could not see their enemy. But this man, he looked straight through it, as if her trick meant nothing. "You think you are clever," she said coldly, circling him like a predator. "Maybe you see something. But can you fight what you cannot touch?" With that, she struck, not with claws or weapons, but with the full force of her gift. Her kind could bend not just light, but also perception, making their enemies stumble, turning left when they meant to go right, hearing voices that weren't there. It was how her people had conquered rivals for centuries. Around Daniel, the world shimmered, his vision warped, his ears filled with echoes of his own footsteps. It was like being trapped in a storm of illusions. Lyra's voice whispered from every direction. "Now, human, where am I?" But Daniel didn't panic. He closed his eyes. Liara froze. Why would he close them? He couldn't see her anymore. And then, softly, he spoke. 2 steps behind me. Breathing faster than before. Her entire body tensed. She hadn't realized she was breathing harder. She hadn't realized she had leaned forward without meaning to. And yet somehow he had known. Daniel opened his eyes again and turned calmly, his gaze falling exactly on her outline. I don't need to see tricks, he said. I see you. For a moment, Liara's heart stumbled in her chest. She felt naked, stripped of the one thing that made her untouchable. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath. She lashed, out in frustration, snapping a branch and hurling it at him. Daniel caught it without flinching. You mock me, she spat. Do you want me to believe you are some god, some sorcerer? Daniel dropped the branch and stepped closer, his boots crunching on the glowing moss. No, I'm just human. But maybe that's enough. Liara wanted to strike him again, wanted to vanish so completely that even his strange eyes would fail to follow. But instead, she hesitated. She thought of her tribe, of the stories they told around the fire. Stories of Deathworlders, the humans, who survived where no one else could. Beasts feared them, weapons bent against them. Now she wondered, was this what those stories meant? Why don't you fear me? She whispered. Daniel shrugged. Because fear blinds. I don't like being blind. His words cut deeper than she expected. Fear blinds. Had she lived her whole life unseen because she feared being seen? Her invisibility veil flickered like water disturbed by stone. For the first time, she let it slip just enough for her face to show, her glowing violet eyes met his steady human gaze. Daniel didn't flinch. He didn't look away. Lyra's chest tightened. No one had ever looked at her like that, not as prey, not as a ghost, not as a threat, just her. A low growl rumbled in the distance. The predators of the forest were moving closer. Daniel turned his head toward the sound, his hand resting casually on his weapon. You can keep hiding from me if you want, he said quietly. But the forest won't care. I'll smell you whether you're visible or not. He started walking again, calm as ever. Liara stood frozen, her veil flickering uncertainly around her. For the first time in her life, she faced a choice she had never imagined. Stay unseen and safe, or walk beside the only one who had ever truly seen her. Curiosity burned stronger than fear. So silently she followed. The moons of Zaire rose higher, painting the silver forest in pale blue light. The strange glow made every shadow stretch long, twisting like fingers across the ground. Daniel kept moving forward with steady steps, but he could hear the soft rhythm behind him. Lyra's footsteps, light as feathers. Always a few paces back. She still hid herself in her shimmering veil, but Daniel knew exactly where she was. Every pause, every breath, every slight movement, he felt it. At last, he stopped. You've been following me for hours, he said. His voice was calm, almost casual. Don't you ever get tired of hiding? Liara stiffened. She hadn't meant to follow him this long. Her instincts told her to run, yet her heart had chained her in place. She was desperate for answers, and the human was the only one who could give them. You should not be able to do this, she said firmly, her voice echoing faintly through the veil. No one can see me, not my enemies, not my own people. Yet you cut through it like smoke. Daniel finally turned, his scarred face glowing faintly under the twin moons. His eyes locked onto hers, though her body was still hidden. Maybe your trick works on those who want to believe in illusions. But me, I've spent too long on worlds that want me dead. I learned to see past what's shown. Her invisible fingers trembled. For the first time, she wondered if his strange vision was more than just sight. Was it instinct, experience, or something deeper? You cannot expect me to believe this, she whispered. Then test me, he said. The challenge sparked fire in her chest. Without warning, she released the full force of her ability. Light bent around her, warping the air, creating 5 perfect copies of herself, each one moving in a different direction, cloaked in the same veil. To most eyes, it was impossible to tell which was real. Her enemies had always fallen to this. Trick. Daniel didn't even blink. He lifted his hand and pointed straight to the real her. "You," he said. The one holding her breath, trying too hard not to move. Leora's heart lurched. He was right again. The copies flickered and vanished as her concentration broke. Her body shimmered into view at last, violet skin glowing faintly, silver hair catching the moonlight. Exposed bare before him, exposed. In a way she had never been. Daniel studied her without cruelty, without mockery. His expression carried something far more dangerous. Understanding. "You don't need to hide," O said softly. Those words hit her harder than a blade. All her life, hiding had been her strength, her shield, her identity, and this human had ripped it away in one night. Before she could speak, the forest erupted with sound. Low growls echoed from the underbrush, and glowing eyes appeared between the trees. A pack of predators, six-legged beasts with bone-like armor and jaws, dripping with venom, were circling them. Lyra's blood ran cold. Even with invisibility, these creatures could track scent and vibration. Her tribe had always avoided them. To face them in the open was suicide. Daniel, however, did not back away. He calmly drew the weapon at his belt-a-blade, made not of steel, but of hardened alien alloy glowing faintly along the edge. "Stay behind me," he said. Leora's pride flared. "I am not helpless," she snapped, summoning her veil again. She flickered and vanished, moving like mist between the trees. One of the beasts lunged toward her, but Daniel's blade was faster. He cut across its flank, sending it howling. Back, another beast charged from the side. Lyra cast illusions, bending light to make herself appear far away. But the beast still sniffed the air, snapping toward her real form. Daniel's hand shot out, pulling her back just in time. "See?" he growled. "They don't care about tricks. They feel you." Lyra's anger collapsed into dread. He was right again. Her power meant nothing here. For the first time in her life, she was defenseless. Daniel fought like no alien she had ever seen. He didn't move with elegance or ritual. His strikes were raw, brutal, efficient, every motion, aimed to kill or disable. One beast fell, then another, until the survivors slunk back into the darkness with snarls of frustration. Silence returned, broken only by Lyra's ragged breathing. She had dropped her veil completely now, her glowing eyes wide as she stared at him. You should be dead," she whispered. "Those beasts slaughter warriors of my tribe, but you—" Daniel wiped his blade clean on the grass and sheathed. I told you. I see what others don't. That includes weaknesses." Lyra's legs trembled. Fear, awe, and something unspoken twisted in her chest. She realized then that she was staring at more than just a man. She was staring at a truth. "What are you?" she asked again, this time not in anger, but in wonder. Daniel glanced at her with those steady eyes. For a moment, he seemed like he might finally tell her, but instead, he only said, "Human," and he walked forward into the forest, leaving her trembling, her heart pounding, her mind consumed by a dangerous thought. If this human could see what no one else could, what else was he capable of? And why, of all people, had he chosen to see her? The forest had fallen quiet after the predator attack. But silence on Zaira was never safe. Silence meant something was waiting. Daniel moved ahead, calm as ever, while Lyra trailed close behind him. For the first time since she was a child, her invisibility veil remained unused. There was no point hiding from him. He would see her anyway. That thought both unsettled her and deep inside comforted her. But Lyra's people were not so easily comforted. Far away, within a valley of jagged stone, word had already spread. Whispers reached the elders of her tribe. A human deathworlder had entered their lands. Not only that, he had done the impossible. He had seen the invisible. To them, this was no gift. It was a curse, a threat to their entire way of life. Hunters were sent to track him. Silent warriors, wrapped in the same cloaking ability Lyra possessed, moved like ghosts across the treetops. Their mission was clear. The human must not leave the forest alive. Lyra felt them before she saw them. Shiver. crawled across her skin the way it always did when others of her kind cloaked nearby. Her steps faltered. Daniel noticed instantly. They're close, aren't they? She swallowed hard. Yes, my people. They come for you. Daniel didn't seem surprised. He simply adjusted the strap on his shoulder and kept walking. Yes, of course they do. Lyra's voice cracked with urgency. You don't understand. They will kill you. They have lived in shadows all their lives. No one escapes them. Daniel finally looked at her. His gaze was steady, unshaken, as if her warning was nothing more than a change in weather. And yet you're here warning me. The words stung. She hadn't realized until now that her own heart had chosen sides. She should have been preparing to help her people. Instead, she was whispering warnings to the very enemy they hunted. Up in the trees, the cloaked warriors positioned themselves. One drew a long, curved blade made of crystal, its edge glimmering faintly. Another fitted a dart into a bone-carved tube. Their eyes gleamed as they prepared to strike. Daniel stopped walking. His head tilted slightly, listening. He didn't look up, but he spoke in a low voice. For above us, it's a flanking from the left, and one. Right behind me. Lyra's blood ran cold. He was right. Exactly right. Mitt. She spun around just as the hidden warrior lunged from the shadows, blade raised in one motion. Daniel twisted aside and grabbed the attacker's wrist. His other hand slammed into the warrior's chest, sending him sprawling across the mossy ground. The cloak flickered away, revealing a furious male of Lyra's tribe. His eyes widened with rage and disbelief. He sees us, the warrior shouted. The others struck. Blades cut through the air, darts whistled down. Daniel moved like a storm, his body shifting with brutal precision. He knocked aside one strike, dodged another, and hurled a stone that cracked against a hidden archer's head, forcing him into the open. Lyra watched, torn apart inside. These were her people, her kin. But as she looked at the human fighting, she realized something terrifying. They were no match for him. He wasn't faster, he wasn't stronger, but he knew. He read their movements before they even made them. His strange eyes cut through every shadow. The forest glowed with clashing light as cloaks failed and warriors stumbled into view. Fury grew. This cannot be, one cried. No human should see us. Daniel's voice was calm, steady. Then maybe you should stop underestimating humans. Lyra's heart pounded as she saw her tribe faltering. She could stop this. She could step forward and side with them, use her veil to strike Daniel from behind. That was what loyalty demanded. That was what her people would expect, but she didn't move. Instead, she whispered, almost to herself, "Why can't I leave him?" One of the warriors heard her. His eyes burned with betrayal. "Lyra, you defend this creature? You betray your bloodline for a death worlder?" Her lips trembled. She had no answer. Daniel's blade glowed faintly in the moonlight as he held. "It ready go back to your tribe," he told the warriors coldly. "Tell them their shadows won't save them anymore." Humiliation burned in their eyes. One by one, the surviving warriors retreated into the trees. Vanishing back into the night, silence returned. Lyra stood frozen, her heart torn. Daniel sheathed his weapon and looked at her. "Now you know why they fear me," he said quietly. Her voice shook. "They will not stop. My people will hunt you until you are dead." Daniel shrugged. "Let them try." Lyra felt the weight of the choice pressing down on her. If she returned to her people now, she could earn back their trust. She could warn them, plan their revenge. But if she stayed with the human, she would be turning her back on everything she had ever known. And yet, as she stared at him scarred, calm, unafraid, she realized something terrifying. She wanted to stay. Because, for the first time in her life, she wasn't invisible. She was seen. The night after the ambush was colder than usual. The glowing vines dimmed, as if the forest itself had lost its warmth. Daniel built a small fire between two rocks, its light flickering against the silver grass. He sat in silence, sharpening his blade with steady strokes. Liara stood a little distance away, her arms wrapped around herself. She hadn't used her invisibility since the battle. For the first time in her life, she was letting someone truly see her. And yet, that very choice left her feeling heavier than ever. Her tribe would not forgive this. The voices of her people still echoed in her mind. Liara, did you betray your bloodline for a death worlder? The look in their eyes had been filled with fury and hurt. Maybe they were right. She sank down on a fallen log, her glowing violet eyes locked on the fire. Daniel glanced at her once, then returned to his blade. Say it, she whispered. He didn't look up. Say what? I betrayed them. Her voice cracked. That I chose you over my people. Daniel's sharpening stone paused for a moment. Then he set it down and looked at her directly. His gaze was firm, but not unkind. You didn't choose me, you chose yourself. There's a difference. Liara's lips trembled. She wanted to argue, but deep inside, she knew he was right. She had stayed with him not because she owed him anything, but because she wanted to. Because he made her feel something she had never felt before, visible, before she could reply. A sharp whistle cut through the night air. Daniel's head snapped up. Liara froze. She knew that sound it was a signal horn of her tribe. Her stomach nodded. They had found them. From the shadows, 6 warriors stepped into the clearing. This time, they didn't bother with cloaks. They wanted her to see them. They wanted her to understand what she had done. At their front stood Kalen, one of the strongest hunters of her tribe. His eyes glowing like burning coals, fixed on her with fury. Liara, he spat, his voice heavy with disgust. Your blood has been stained. You stand beside an enemy of our kind. You deny it? Lyra's breath caught. She looked at Daniel, then back at Kalen. Her throat ached with the weight of the moment. You have betrayed us. Kalen cut her off. But we are merciful. Step away from the Death Worlder. Leave him to us, and you may still return home. Daniel stood slowly, his blade in hand. His voice was calm, almost quiet. And if she doesn't? Kellen's lip curled into a snarl. Then she dies with you. The words hit Liara like a blade to the chest. Her own people, her kin, were ready to kill her if she refused. Her mind spun. I can step away now. Pretend this never happened. Return to the tribe, return to safety. He will die, but I will live. But her heart screamed louder. If I abandon him, I abandon the only one who ever saw me. Daniel looked at her, his eyes steady, even as enemies closed in. He didn't speak, but his gaze held a question. What do you want, Liara? Her lips parted. Choice was about to be made when. Suddenly Kalen gave the order. Take him. The warriors surged forward. Daniel moved like a storm, striking and dodging, his blade flashing in the firelight. But there were too many. Blows rained down, and though he cut 2 down swiftly, 3 more forced him back. A club struck his ribs, a blade grazed his arm. Liara screamed, rushing forward, but a warrior grabbed her wrist. She struggled violently, her veil flickering around her, but she couldn't break free. Stop, she cried, please, but her voice fell on deaf ears. Daniel fought until his legs gave way, until a blow to the back of his head sent him crashing to the ground. His weapon clattered uselessly beside him. The hunters bound his arms and dragged him to the firelight. Kalen stood tall, sneering down at him. So this is the great human who sees the unseen. Look at him now, helpless. Daniel lifted his bloodied face, eyes still defiant. You think chains will save you? He rasped. Kellen's gaze turned to Liara. And you, traitor, you chose him over us. Your punishment will be the same as his. Lyra's knees weakened. She looked at Daniel, scarred, beaten, but still unbroken. And she realized then what her heart had been whispering all along. She couldn't betray him. Not now. Not ever. Taking a deep breath, she pulled free of the warrior's grip, her voice cutting through the night. If you kill him, you'll have to kill me too. Gasps rippled through the hunters. Kellen's eyes widened, then hardened with fury. So it's true. You've abandoned your own blood. Liara stood taller, her veil shimmering faintly, but not hiding her face. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of being seen. Daniel, half-conscious, managed a weak smirk. "Guess you made your choice." Liara's heart pounded. Yes, she had made her choice. And it was betrayal not of him, but of her people. The fire crackled louder as the night deepened, the hunters tightening their grip on their weapons. The bond between the human and the alien girl had been sealed not by trust, not by blood, but by betrayal, and somewhere deep in her chest, Liara knew there was no turning back. The hunters tied Daniel to a stone pillar at the edge of the clearing. The ropes were woven from the fibers of Zairus trees, strong enough to hold even the fiercest beasts. His arms were pulled tight behind his back, his face bruised, his breath uneven, yet his eyes, even in defeat, carried the same fire. Liara stood nearby, guarded by 2 warriors. Their blades shimmered under the moonlight, ready to strike her down if she dared move. She could feel their hatred burning against her skin, heavier than the ropes that bound Daniel. Kalen, the leader of the hunters, paced slowly before the fire. His voice rang out cold and sharp. "You had your chance, Liara. You could have returned to us. But instead, you chose him, so you will share his fate." Lyra's lips trembled, but she stood tall. "If fate is to be seen, then I choose it." Kellen's snarl deepened. He raised his crystal blade toward Daniel. At dawn, this death worlder dies. The hunters cheered low and grim, their voices echoing through the night. They believed. The human's end was certain. But Daniel only chuckled weakly, blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. "Funny thing about dawn," he rasped. "It has a habit of surprising people." The hunter struck him across the face for his defiance, but his eyes never wavered. Lyra's heart pounded. She knew if she did nothing, he would be dead by sunrise. And with him would die the only one who had ever truly seen her. The thought clawed at her chest like fire. That night, as the hunters took turns keeping watch, Liara sat motionless, pretending to obey. Her mind raced. She had her veil, her invisibility, but it wasn't enough against so many eyes and ears. She needed more. Daniel caught her gaze across the firelight, even bound and beaten. He looked at her with the same calm as always, and then, in a whisper only she could hear, he said, "Don't be afraid, air blinds." Her breath hitched, at the same words he had spoken before. And suddenly something inside her shifted. She wasn't afraid anymore. Liara waited until the guards nearest. Her began to doze. Then she summoned her veil, wrapping herself in shimmering light until she vanished. The warriors stirred, startled, but she moved silently, circling behind them. With a sharp strike from a broken branch, she knocked one unconscious. The second turned, but she was already gone again, her cloak bending the moonlight. He swung. Wildly, but her hand found his throat, striking fast and sure. He collapsed. Daniel watched, surprise flickering in his eyes. For the first time, her gift wasn't used to frighten or deceive, it was used to protect. Liara rushed to him, her fingers trembling as she reached for the ropes. They were thick, almost unbreakable, but her people had taught her the weak points. She pulled, twisted, and with one final snap, the fibers gave way. Daniel's arms fell free. He groaned but forced himself to stand, towering against the firelight like a scarred shadow. "Took you long enough," he muttered with a crooked smile. She almost laughed, though fear still pressed on her chest. "You humans never say thank you, do you? Not when we're busy surviving." Before they could slip away, a sharp cry rang out. One of the hunters had awoken. They're escaping. The camp erupted in chaos. Warriors leaped to their feet, blades flashing, cloaks shimmering into place. Daniel snatched his weapon from where it had been left on the ground. His body ached, but his spirit burned. With a roar, he struck down the first attacker, his blade glowing in the firelight. Liara flickered between sight and shadow, distracting the others, striking from angles they couldn't predict together. They moved like a storm, one of brute force, the other of shifting light. Hunters fell, their pride shattered by the pair. They thought helpless. But Kalen was not so easily defeated. Charged forward, his crystal blade slashing through the air. His eyes locked on Daniel, filled with rage. "You don't belong here, human." Kalen snarled, You are a stain on this world. Daniel blocked the strike, their blades clashing with sparks. Funny, he growled, pushing back. Your world seems to think otherwise. The duel was fierce, steel against crystal, man. Against Hunter, Liara darted around them, trying to aid Daniel, but Kellen's fury was overwhelming. With a sudden strike, Kellen's blade cut deep into Daniel's arm, forcing him to stumble. Liara screamed. Without thinking, she dropped her veil and lunged forward. Her glowing body struck Kalen with surprising force, knocking him off balance. Daniel seized the moment, driving his blade into Kellen's shoulder. The hunter roared in pain, collapsing. To his knees, the remaining warriors hesitated, their leader wounded. Daniel and Liara stood back to back, defiant and unbroken. Liara's voice rang out clear and fierce. If you want him, you will have to kill me too, and I will not fall so. Easily, the warriors looked at one another uncertain. Their cloaks flickered, their confidence shaken. Slowly, one by one, they retreated into the shadows of the forest. Dragging their wounded leader with them, silence returned, broken only by Daniel's heavy breaths. He dropped to one knee, clutching his wounded arm. Liara knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she pressed against the wound. You fool, she whispered, her eyes glistening. You nearly died. Daniel smirked faintly even through the pain. But we didn't. That's what matters. For a long moment they stayed there, side by side, their bodies bruised but their spirits unbroken. The fire crackled low, casting shadows across their faces. Liara realized then that the bond between them had changed. It was no longer fear, no longer curiosity, no longer betrayal. It was something stronger, something that would carry them through whatever came next. They had broken free, not just from ropes, not just from hunters, but from the chains of doubt that bound them both. And as the first light of dawn crept across the horizon, Liara whispered, the truth she had been afraid to speak aloud, you are not my enemy, you are my only hope. The dawn of Zaira broke slowly, the twin suns rising together, painting the sky in hues of blue and gold. The forest glowed as though alive, its silver leaves shimmering with the light of morning. For Daniel and Liara, the night of betrayal and battle had finally ended, but peace was fragile. Daniel sat near the dying fire, his arm wrapped with makeshift bandages. He winced slightly as he adjusted the cloth, but his face remained calm. Liara knelt beside him, her glowing hands trembling as she tied the knot tighter. You shouldn't move so much, she whispered. Daniel gave her a faint smile. If I stop moving, I stop living. Lyra's heart ached. She had seen him fight through blood and pain, never once giving up. No human should have survived what he had endured, and yet he had, not just survived, but protected her through it all. For the first time in her life, Liara felt a different kind of fear. Not of being hunted, not of being unseen, but of losing him. Before she could speak, a sound rippled through the forest. The hunters had returned. From the shadows, Kalen emerged once more, his shoulder bandaged, his face twisted with fury. Behind him stood a dozen more warriors, their blades gleaming, their cloaks flickering as they prepared to strike. This time, they hadn't come to capture, they'd come to finish it. Lyra's blood ran cold. She stepped instinctively in front of Daniel, her veil flickering around her. But Daniel rose slowly, despite his wound, placing a hand on her shoulder. No, he said firmly. Stay behind me this time. She shook her head desperately. They will kill you. Daniel's eyes burned with quiet fire. Then let them try, but they won't touch you. Kellen's voice thundered across the clearing. You cannot escape, human. You defy the shadows. You break our law. Today you die. Daniel raised his weapon, his stance unshaken. I didn't come here to escape. I came here to prove something. And I won't leave until I do. The hunters surged forward, their bodies cloaked, blades flashing. Daniel moved like a storm, every strike precise, every dodge born from instinct. But he was wounded, and Liara could see the strain in his body. She couldn't just watch. With a scream, Liara unleashed her full veil knot, just bending light around herself, but around Daniel too.
Ow.
For the first time, she extended her power to someone else. The hunters faltered as their eyes failed, their prey vanishing before them, but Daniel could still see. His strange eyes cut through the veil, guiding his blade. Together, they fought as one her shadows, disorienting their enemies. His strikes finding their targets. Warriors fell, their cloaks shattering. Kalen roared in rage, charging forward with all his strength. His crystal blade clashed against Daniel's, the sound echoing through the trees. "You are nothing," Kalen spat, forcing Daniel back. "You are just a man, fragile and weak." Daniel's voice thundered with defiance. "Maybe I am. I'm a man who doesn't quit." With a final surge, Daniel twisted, disarming Kalen and sending him crashing to the ground. Its blade hovered inches from the hunter's throat. The other warriors froze, their courage breaking at the sight. Liara held her breath. This was the moment. One strike, and Kalen would be dead. The tribe's greatest warrior would fall to a human, but Daniel didn't strike. He lowered his weapon slowly, his voice steady. "I won't kill you, but remember this. Your shadows can't hide you forever. One day the truth will find you just as I did." The silence was deafening. The hunters, humiliated and defeated, dragged Kalen back into the forest. None dared look back. Liara stared at Daniel, her chest tight with something she couldn't name. "Why?" she whispered. "Why spare him, after all they did to you?" Daniel sheathed his blade, his eyes softening. "Because if I kill him, I become just another shadow. I'd rather be the one who brings light." Her throat tightened. She had spent her life believing invisibility was power. But this man, this fragile human, had shown her something far greater. To be seen and to see others was the real strength. Tears shimmered in her violet eyes as she stepped closer. "You risked everything for me, even when my own people turned against you. Why?" Daniel met her gaze without hesitation. His voice was quiet but unshakable. "Because you're worth seeing." Her breath caught. In that moment, all the walls she had built crumbled. She placed her hand gently over his, her voice trembling. "Then promise me. Promise you'll never stop seeing me." Daniel squeezed her hand firmly. "I promise." The suns rose higher, bathing the clearing in golden light. For the first time, Liara didn't feel like a shadow. She didn't feel invisible. She felt alive. And as she stood beside the human who had shattered her world, she knew their story was only beginning.